Okay, for our last hand of the day, we're going to cover a different type of hand value than we've had so far. So let's get to it. There's limper under the gun. We isolate 7-5-4-3 single suited. Is there a spot where you would ever maybe not isolate this or just limp this behind? Like, what do you think of the ISO overall?
It depends a lot on the players who are left to act. So, because I remember UTG was a weaker player who is limping a lot, but
Yeah.
depending how the players behind me, how they're reacting to my isolating here. So I would say that if at least one of the guys is aggressive and 3-betting me white here, I would prefer to not isolate it and probably just fold it, since the hand really is not that good of a hand. It has a gap to the top, a very low flush draw. So from the button, I would definitely isolate it, but from the cutoff, it's kind of borderline.
Right. Um, Also, I wanted to ask. I see that we didn't isolate for full pot. Do you have any reasoning for that, or what? Like, do you always isolate for less than pot, yeah, like, is there a specific logic behind that?
It depends on the stack sizes of the other players, I guess, and of the behavior of the limper. If he has like very wide range, very tight range, you know what? Or I'm not really sure what I have to say about that.
No, that's okay. I was just curious. It could have been a misclick, to be completely honest. I think that I just wanted to point out that I normally do isolate for full pot, so I wanted to see if you recommended that as well.
I think another time we talk about that, but to be honest, I don't really have a specific reason for doing it smaller. It's more like,
Hmm.
I don't know, saving money when it gets 3-bet and have to fold.
No, that's okay. So we make it 14. The button calls. Small blind folds, and then the guy with a little less than 75 big squeezes from the big. Under the gun calls, and it's pretty tempting to call here, but I'm assuming that you're gonna say that we should not call here, and I would agree as well. Um, the main reason being that this hand is just gonna flop, like, even when this hand flops good, it's not. It's still gonna not be like an equity lock. So unless we, of course, like flop the wheel, um, or well, even a wheel, like someone could have a set and still have a lot of equity. But like we could flop like pretty well with the lower straights. But if let's say it came like 6-7-8, well, we could easily be dead, for example. And when we flop like a bottom pair and side cards, a lot of times it's very little equity. When we flop a diamond draw, it's almost always dominated. In short, like again, like this is right along the lines of what we've talked about before, where in these multi-way shallow SPR situations, it's typically not very good to have hands like this, just because they flop dominated like tons and tons and tons of the time. This is like the perfect hand for being like in position in a heads-up pot, but not like multi-way in a shallow SPR pot. Do you agree?
Yeah, exactly. So because a big blind squeezer obviously has a strong range, aces, kings, some double suited big card hands. The UTG limper that now cold calls, we're not really sure about his range. We don't know how he's valuing his cards, but it's pretty likely that he also has some kind of connectivity and suitedness. So when it's already guaranteed, when we decide to call here, it's guaranteed 3 ways and very likely being 4 ways, because the button is always going to come along.
Mm-hmm.
So with our hand being 4 ways, it just like you just mentioned, John, there are very, very few cases where we will flop something that we are happy staking off with. And even like you said, on the wheel, like when the board comes ace deuce 5, the preflop raiser is very like it's oftentimes having aces, and he still has close to 40% or against or holding, even though we flop the nuts.
Right.
So not a profitable spot neither. And all the time we do flop a non-nut straight, we can't really invest any more money if one of the other players decides to make a bet. So we can't, like long-term shirt, we just can't realize our equity that we may have. Flopping something like a pair and a flush draw, we can't stack off with 4 ways. So it has, some players may say, but yeah, this hand has a lot of implied odds, therefore I decide to call. But in reality, it has pure reverse implied odds, and our best decision is to just fold it at that point. The hand would have been like possible to play plus EV if the most common scenario occurs that all other players fold after we isolate it and the limper calls. Now it's a completely different story. We're heads up in position as a preflop raiser with initiative. So we have a ton of options, profitable options to take post-flop to win the pot, not really measuring our hands range.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Let me ask you a question, and this might be hard for you to answer. Um, but what would be like the worst rundown hand that has a similar structure to this that you would call with in this spot?
It's a good question. I think when you're referring with similar structure, you're referring to having a top gap and being single suited.
Yeah.
I think I would even fold 10-8, 7-6
Okay.
and probably start calling with Jack 9, 8-7.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then what about like reverse it? So like a top gap. Like, would you call with like 8-7-6-4?
Uh, yeah, probably. I think with a 9 high or 8 high rundowns, when it's without a gap or a gap at the bottom, we can be a little bit more lighter, like making more calls then, because we are just now, especially when there are at least one weaker player involved in the pot who is going to stack off light whenever we do hit strong, and we will just hit more nut straights and more strong two pairs.
Definitely. And you know, one of the reasons that we included this hand was because I think that this is a mistake that I see a lot of beginning players make, is really overvaluing these like crappy like rundowny type hands. Like, they look a lot better than they are. Like, your average like no limit player might look at this hand and say, "Oh, it's deceptive," like because it's really fun to make those like bad disguised like low straights, but in reality like these are pretty big losers. But man, it really is fun as hell when you hit a big hand with these, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, in general, avoid these in these big multi-way pots. Well, that's great. Jörg, do you have anything else that you want to add with this hand?
Oh, I think we covered all pretty well.
Yeah, and all right, guys, that's gonna do it for our three betting mini series here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that Jörg and I really enjoyed recording the content. We obviously put a lot of effort into it, so you know, we would appreciate it if you gave us feedback on what you liked, what you didn't like, and if there's some concepts that you'd like us to expand on in the future, or if you'd like us to clarify some of the things that we talked about in this video, please get in touch with us. You got anything else that you'd like to say, Jörg, before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, it was fun, and I hope that you guys out there learned some. And until then, good luck at the tables.
Yeah, good luck, guys. Take care. Thanks again.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Casino Crime here. Now, if you like this video and you want more, then go ahead and click the subscribe button below right now. And if you want to join me for more of my 6 max success secrets and free video tutorials, just click the link to the right. See you inside the trainings. Good luck.